Hey everyone, it's Tuesday again. Man, these weeks go by so fast. Hope everyone had a nice long weekend. For those of you that are in Canada, we had our Victoria Day, and next week coming up is actually Memorial Day for our US friends. So, this is our last week of talking about toxins and how to reduce them in your life in all different ways. We've talked about food, we've talked about bathroom, we've talked about kitchen and all your cookware. And today we want to talk about something called EMF, those types of toxins, electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic radiation. And this is stuff that comes from things like cell phones, our Wi-Fi, the 5G that we talk about. And it's literally everywhere. You can't escape it, but there's a lot of things you can do to, and it's not block it, because if we blocked it, then the technology wouldn't work, but it protects our bodies from the harmful rays, if you will, that comes from it. And there's something simple that I use. It's through a company called Aires, AIRES technology. And it's these little devices that come in all different sizes. So this one is for a typical room. So I have these in my office. I have them where the Wi-Fi is in general areas. I have smaller ones that I stick on the back of my phone. And then I have one that's actually about the size of my phone that's actually on the back of my router, my Wi-Fi. Is that the right word? The router? Anyways, where the Wi-Fi thing is, to just reduce the impact that it has on us. And this is one of these silent toxins, if you will, because a lot of people, not everyone, and Nicole share her story, it's not something that you feel, but it can impact our health drastically, especially over time, accumulating this. And one of the worst things, well, I don't know if it's one of the worst, it's all bad, but something that is so prevalent today are those earbuds, the wireless headphones. There's been a lot of studies shown on how it negatively impacts brain health, cognitive function. I have a pair. I rarely use them. I like the good old fashioned headphones that just plug in, like Nicole's got on right now. I don't have any on today, but using those, because you're not going to get that EMF from those wireless, and it's going right into your brain, guys. So definitely go back to the wired ones when you can. So as I said, some people are not affected by this. Like, I don't really feel a difference when I'm using my phone. I mean, I do have that on it now, but when I hold my phone without the protective device on it and I've been muscle tested, I go weak. And then I put my phone back in my case with the device on it. I get muscle tested and I am strong. So for me, I know that it is impacting me and that the Aries technology is protecting me. But some people, like my dear friend Nicole here, is so sensitive to this type of toxin. So I'll let her share a couple of her crazy stories that she's experienced with this stuff. So share, Nicole. I know you got lots of stories actually.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the one that I will share just right off the bat when you were telling about the headphones, I had a friend of mine just recently share that her son was using them all the time, the wireless, university,
Yeah.
walking to school at night. His ears started to bleed.
Oh my gosh.
Started to bleed. Yeah. So she was freaked right out and looked it up and realized that it can be one of the side effects, right? So harmful, silent toxins to our body can harm. So
Right.
my story started probably 10 plus years ago for sure when I had young kids. And that's when we had the flip phones and there was no devices in your car to safely put your phone anywhere. So it's either like in the little coffee holder, or sometimes what I would do is I would put that flip phone, put it on speaker, put it in my seatbelt, and that would be the time where I would catch up with like friends, family, whatever conversations, especially if the kids fell
Right.
asleep in the back, I would just like catch up. I was starting to feel horrible when I used to drive. I would be like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to pass out. Oh my gosh, I'm dizzy. oh my gosh, something's wrong with my heart. Oh my gosh, I've got tingling up my arm. Oh my gosh, am I going to have a heart attack? And I remember going to our medical doctor and she was really worried. She's like, "Ooh, this does not sound right. You're in your 30s and you sound like you're like, going to have a heart attack or stroke." So I had to go through the due diligence of every single test you can imagine relating to my heart and my health.
Right.
Guess what? All of the reports came back and she's like,
Normal.
"Oh my gosh, you are in perfect health. I don't know what's going on, Nicole, but you are absolutely in perfect health. There's nothing wrong with you. I wish all of my patients were as healthy as you." That's the feedback. That's the feedback that I didn't want to hear, but I wanted to hear, right?
Right.
And I started in my small community that I just moved to, started to have conversations with some people about my experience. And they're like, "You have to go see Susan Kern. She can totally muscle test you and figure out what's going on." And I'm like, "A what? A who? A muscle test? What are you even talking about?" But
Right.
in desperation, I was like, "Okay, I'm going to go check this woman out." So I went to check her out. Her background was like she was a scientist and worked on pathology and stuff. Like she was very, very well versed and educated about how the body worked. And she had moved to this whole other world of energy medicine, which I was like, "What? Energy medicine? What are you talking about?" She had this like massive machine where you could like do all this energy work. Anyways, long story short, she's like, right away, she's like, "Where do you keep your phone?" And I said, "Well, when I'm in my car, usually in my," and she goes, "So right by your heart." And I'm like, "Yep." She goes, "Okay, let's muscle test your phone." So there I am in the office. She muscle tests me. I drop like a baby, my arm. She's like, I'm like, "Well, do that again. There's no way. I am strong. There's no way." She does it again. I drop like a baby. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." That was like the first time I think I've ever been muscle tested, was, as I said, by this crazy woman that like obviously knew something that I didn't. And then she's like, "But I have these little devices that I put on the back of your phone, and we're going to muscle test it, just like Melissa was saying, and see if it can hold your strength." So she put one on my phone and I dropped halfway. She's like, "Wow, are you ever sensitive? I'm going to put two on." So she put two on and I held my strength. She goes, "Okay, you're extra, extra sensitive to this EMF, this invisible toxin that most people don't realize. And so you need to, and probably forever, you will always have to think of ways to protect yourself from this EMF." So that's my first story. And so I have, like Melissa, I've got tools all over my house. I've got even the crystals. You can even get these crystals to plug into your phone, right? But it's being aware of this invisible toxin. So I've looked up some recent studies. So definitely the more recent studies is that they have been proven to these invisible frequencies to cross the brain barrier. So kids, especially, for their brain barrier does not completely close until about age 12 or 13. So a child under kind of that age is at a high risk of, I'm going to say, being impacted in the brain. And that's really scary when you think of like our kids and how much technology they're watching, that their phone might be in their room, that they're using the phone like this or with their wireless, and it's crossing the brain barrier. So if you're a mama bear or a grandma, grandparent that you are watching this, is to have a serious conversation with your kids and to create some really strong boundaries, because really as parents or grandparents, like we need to create strong boundaries about technology with our kids. When studies came out over 10 years ago about this, guess what happened? Over in Europe with this new research, their scientists presented it to obviously the government, the school boards, and it was so, I guess, impactful that the schools over in Europe actually banned wireless technology in the school systems with young children. And I remember taking that information to my public school, and this was years ago when my kids were in grade school. And I presented all of this research, and they said, "Well, our government here in Ontario, they think it is safe, and so we're going to keep on pushing this agenda of wireless technology." So I'm like, so how are their kids any different than our kids? and yet they're pushing the agenda of this wireless. So I called BS on it. So I realized that as a parent, years ago, that I would have to just do my best to protect my kids. And then it's proven that the mobile waves have a negative impact on human health. It heats up our tissue, which also then impacts organs. And there's been links to cancer and also just damage to tissue and organs. One story I remember, I was doing this lecture years ago and bringing the attention to EMF. And I remember this woman coming up to me and she's like, I have gone to every single doctor that you can imagine, and I've got all of these mystery symptoms and they have no idea. And I said, maybe it's EMF. I remember like a month or two after I had gone to the lecture, told her about this, she had privately reached out to me and said, Nicole, I did everything that you told me to do, and my weird symptoms are going away. So it was the medical system failed her because they don't even have a conversation or recognize this as something that could impact our health. And yet here was one example of somebody that took the what we told them. So, getting the technology, making sure that you don't have Wi-Fi set up at your house at night when you sleep. So that means removing your phones from the bedroom, getting the TV technology and everything that's plugged in, everything that gets plugged in that is setting energy. So just to think of your bedroom as a sanctuary of wanting it to be wireless and to have everything unplugged. That would be the first thing. And then with your own health is, like Melissa said, making sure that you're just reducing the level of toxicity, or finding somebody that can do muscle testing with you. I love doing it. I know Melissa does too, we're both trained in muscle testing now. I actually had to take a course after that. I was like, I need to know this. And I love taking a 250, 300 pound man that is macho jockey. And I did this at the Bell Center because this big guy, and I was telling them, do you have any protectors? Anyways, I did the test, muscle test. He could not hold his strength as almost a 300 pound man that was muscle. He was not heavy, but muscle. And I love doing those because then it opens up that mind of, oh my gosh, maybe this is. And then for the men in your life, women, where do they often keep their phone? In their front pocket by their junk. But and this is really serious because it has been proven to lower the sperm count. So if you have a man in your life, be very cautious of, educate them about where they're putting it. And then for us, get it off of your body and just be safe. Be safe. Anything else you want to close on, Melissa?
Not really. It's so great that what we shared about it being silent, because people have all these weird symptoms and they can't figure out what it is. So you can just simply remove yourself from the phone, keep it away from you, stay off it for a while, switch your headphones, just try some simple things like that. Get the Aries technology. I think it's ariestech.com if you want to order it. And even if you can't feel it, it's there. Just go and Google it, right? Don't take our word for it. Go and Google and learn about it. And yeah, it's such simple things that we can do once you're aware to help protect our health, because that is the most important value, is our health, right? As soon as that's gone, then we spend our money trying to get our health back. So just make a couple simple changes to protect your health. It's so much easier to buy one of these than have to go through a whole bunch of invasive tests to figure out what's going on with you. And yeah.
Oh, that just reminds me of one last story about being in the vehicle. Remember I told you this story? So in my vehicle that I drive, I have a protector. Okay. So this was a few years ago. I was picking up a friend in Ottawa in my car, but then we switched to her vehicle and we drove hours together. Now she can't drive because she has a concussion. So she's got the map on in the car, which is Wi-Fi, right? There's a connection that's coming somewhere from the Seattle to do the satellites to do that. So you got Wi-Fi going on, right? Beep, 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 beep. I'm in someone else's vehicle. I didn't wear a protector. And as I'm driving, I was like, oh my gosh, something is totally wrong with my brain. I feel weak. I feel dizzy. And of course, I don't want to freak her out because she's got a concussion and she can't drive. And then, like, instantly, I realized that I was getting zapped by technology, by this Wi Fi. So I like literally was like, shut down all the Wi Fi, shut it all off, we'll figure it out. And my nervous system calmed right down and the dizziness went away. So that's an example of like me not realizing and getting reminded of how important it is to have those protectors, especially for someone as sensitive as me. So you might know someone in your life right now that is telling you about these weird symptoms. Remember this conversation that Melissa and I just had. Maybe, just maybe, it might be this invisible toxin that's impacting your body. So thanks for tuning in. That was a wrap for the month of May. Next month in June, we are going to start to dive into testing. We're going to talk about, how to stay on top of your tests, the different types of tests, how to be an advocate for yourself, some of the advanced tests that you might want to consider if you're really struggling with your health and you don't have answers. So next month is all about empowerment and really giving you that baton to be responsible for your own blood work and all the other tests that you can stay on top of and feel empowered as a woman going through this journey in midlife. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.